Welcome to another fat bearded man talking about records. This is my second video. Thank you very much for people who came and watched my first one. It was really nice to have, to know that you're putting something out there and somebody's actually watching it, which is a surprise to me. Well, that is the goal, I suppose. But it was really nice to get some comments on there, mostly some positive stuff. Steve, the Harmless Rebel, he makes some comments. I went and saw his videos. He does country videos as well. So it was really nice to see those. He does mainly metal and rock, but every so often he does country, which is what I was kind of interested in. That's not to say I'm not interested in the other stuff. I am. But it was interesting to see what he does. So as long as he doesn't mind, and I'm, getting myself in on his sort of business, I'll continue with the country music videos, if you don't mind. Let's start. The first one I've got today is the Queen of Country, Dolly Parton. This is Love Is Like a Butterfly. It's from 1974 on the RCA label. This is a UK pressing. It's not perhaps one of her better records. That being said, there's a lot of good stuff on here. It's not kind of up there with the early RCA stuff that she did after she split up from Porter Wagoner. The albums like Tennessee Mountain Home, Jolene, stuff that gave us those songs, and I Will Always Love You. But it does have some good stuff on it, and of course they're practically all written by Dolly Parton as well, which is something that I think is kind of sometimes forgotten about Dolly. She is an incredible songwriter and has an incredible body of work there. Incredible performer, singer and musician. And the big hair and the big boobs kind of get in the way. Well, I imagine they do get in the way, but they get in the way of her being taken seriously. And she should be. I saw her a number of years ago at the Hammersmith Apollo. I was right at the back. To be fair, it could have been anyone down there. I couldn't really see, but it sounded good. And she was mobbed by well-meaning lesbians at the end. Apropos of nothing. Anyway, so this is some good stuff on this though. It's got Love Is Like a Butterfly, the title track, was actually used on a UK sitcom called Butterflies, written by Carla Lane, who sadly passed away recently. And I didn't know at the time that it was a Dolly Parton song. And it was amazing when I actually got this album and found out, it's a Dolly song. Other things on here, we've got Getting Happy, which is a kind of a funky song with break beats and everything. So much so that actually it's on a compilation called Country Funk, I think on the second volume of it, where it kind of collects a lot of sort of funky country. And that's really worth checking out. Also, there's a song on here called You're the One That Taught Me How to Swing. Now, I do know that swinging has a couple of connotations. On one hand, it's going out and having fun. On the other hand, it's leaving your car keys in the bowl by the door. I'm not sure if she's playing a funny one there on us, but you can always think about it like that and feel a little bit dirty. Okay, so that's Dolly Parton for you. Next up, Buck Owens. The Best of Buck Owens, Volume 4. This is from 1971 on Capitol, but this is a German pressing. And Buck was, I suppose, the founder of the Bakersfield sound. He moved out to Bakersfield, playing honky-tonk and adding some electric guitar. So him with Wyn Stewart and Harlan Howard and eventually Merle Haggard would kind of define a new form of sort of Californian country music. This is, as being Volume 4, doesn't really have any of the big hits on it, like Tiger by the Tail, Act Naturally, those sorts of things. But it does have some interesting things. Tall Dark Strangers on here, which is a kind of an interesting, almost country rock song. And also Who's Gonna Mow Your Grass, which almost has a psychedelic kind of feel to it. So I'm really pleased to have those. They're not very easy to get hold of a Buck Owens records here. In fact, I have to say really, the country music isn't easy to get hold of here. So when these things come up and you find them, it's really nice to see them. Next up, we've got Michael Nesmith and the First National Band, Magnetic South. Have I got that right? Yes, Magnetic South. This is from 1970 on RCA. I'm a huge fan of Mike Nesmith, and the collection of albums he did from this one. This is his first solo album after the Monkees. Well, to be fair, I'm not even sure if the Monkees had finished by then. They probably haven't. And he did about 5 or 6 albums that are absolutely gold. They're brilliant. He has a kind of a country with a bit of a pop rock kind of feel. So actually, there's an incredible book called In the Country of Country about the foundation of country rock, and it kind of puts Michael Nesmith alongside Graham Parsons, who of course always gets mentioned as being one of the founders of country rock. And it's good to see in that book that Mike Nesmith is being given his dues. And this is a really nice album. Songs like Calico Girlfriend, Joanne, Crippled Lion, Little Red Rider's got brilliant kind of funky bass on it. Yeah, really good album. Good one to start if you've never heard any of this stuff. Next up, we've got Rosie Flores. I think it's Flores, could be, I suppose. And this is from 1987 on Reprise. She is kind of one of the founders of the alternative country movement, really. She's 87. She had been in the early 80s and mid 80s playing in punk and rockabilly bands. That was kind of her thing, really. So this album, which is a bit more straightforward country, was a bit of a diversion, really, for her. It's got some nice songs on here. David Hidalgo of Los Lobos adds some accordion on 1 or 2 of the tracks, and that's really nice to hear. I always like a bit of an accordion killer stuff. Yeah, this is kind of there she is reclining on the back, wearing kind of cowboy outfit, which isn't. I mean, that's not actually kind of how she presented herself, certainly on stage. This was the only album she released on Reprise. They dropped her after this, unfortunately. Didn't sell brilliantly. But she was part of that kind of new traditionalist movement alongside people like Lyle Lovett, I suppose Steve Earle, Randy Travis. And it's a nice album, worth seeking out. I became aware of her with, I think she added some vocals to some tracks on some Bloodshot Records stuff, kind of all insurgent country. We couldn't do one of these without a Johnny Cash. This is The Rambler. This is 1977 on CBS. Johnny Cash loved to do concept albums. Think about the Ride This Train, the Gunfighter songs, what they call songs of the Old West. And this is another one. This is The Rambler, which is kind of like a radio play. And it doesn't really work. The songs aren't top-notch, Johnny Cash. I mean, this was his 56th album. 56! 1977, and he still had, decades ahead of him of producing stuff. That is absolutely amazing. I'm blown away by that. It's like a radio play. So you have Johnny Cash as the Rambler in his car driving across America, picking up hitchhikers as he goes. Played by a couple of them are played bar girls by Carlene Ralph and Rosanne Cash, of course his daughters, half a stepdaughter and daughter, and it's interesting to see them on here. So it was Carlene Roth before she was married, became Carlene Carter. So she's on there as well. So it's 1977, strange album, worth listening to, not necessarily worth seeking out though. Another strange one, Dave Dudley, 1776. This was released in 1976 on United Artists. And Dave Dudley, famous for his trucking songs, 6 Days on the Road, 1965 I think. And much like most of his albums, this one has half ballads, half kind of trucking songs, and his trucking songs are great, his ballads are a bit sloppy and sentimental, but the thing that's interesting about this album is the title track, 1776. Of course, for all you Americans out there, you know that 1776 was the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I didn't. I've found it out since now, and now of course it's stuck in my brain, and I will remember that, all because of Dave Dudley. Now what he's done actually is it's a very strange song, cashing in on the 200 years anniversary of the signing. He's done a song about that. Imagine a C.W. McCall song with all the CB radios, but imagine that they were using CB radios in 1776, and this is what Dave Dudley does with this. So instead of having, we've got a Smokey on our tail, they've got a red coat on their tail. The English are coming to get them. And it's a very, very odd song. But it's got some really nice kind of funky, I keep saying funky, don't I? I obviously like funky country. It's got some sort of wah-wah pedal guitars and things, very 70s, bit disco. A couple of tracks that are a bit like that. So it's okay, and it's interesting to listen to for that one track. Here's another big name, I mentioned him earlier. Merle Haggard. This is Merle Haggard and the Strangers. What's it called? It's called The Land of Many Churches. Now this is a pressing on the Stetson label from originally probably Columbia, I think, 1971. Stetson was a UK label that did country repressings. UK label, but they all seem to be printed in Germany. Now this is a lovely album. It's with the Carter family and Bonnie Owens. Of course, we had Buck Owens, who she used to be married to. I think at the time of recording this in '71, she was married to Merle Haggard. It's live recordings from church services. Each side, it's a gatefold. They've got the Holy Bible and the Holy Fiddle, and each side of the records is a mini service. Really, it starts with a prayer, an opening prayer, and it finishes with an opening prayer, and it's kind of split between having traditional religious music, Amazing Grace, Old Rugged Cross. And more newer kind of country-based stuff like I Saw the Light by Hank Williams. Great, really lovely sounding record. I've just cleaned that and it sounds really nice actually. So if you see that, pick it up, it's great. On to perhaps my favourite country music album of all time, Waylon Jennings' Honky Tonk Heroes. Here we go. So this is right at the beginning of the outlaw movement. Where he was fighting with his label, RCA, to allow him to record with his actual touring band, the Wailers. I think they're called the Wailers, not the Wailers, not like Bob Marley and the Wailers, the Wailors. I think that's what they're called. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he kind of won through and was allowed to do these records. And this one actually is made up almost entirely of Billy Joe Shaver songs. So we've got Honky Tonk Heroes, Old Five and Diners Like Me, Willie the Wandering Gypsy and Me, Black Rose, Ain't No God in Mexico. Black Rose or Ain't No God in Mexico are two songs that if I'm doing a compilation for someone, to sort of try and show them that country music actually can be quite cool and isn't all my dog's just died, my girlfriend's run away, all that kind of stuff. Those are the sort of songs that I will put on the CD for them because I think they rock and I love them, and I love Waylon. And I just watched on the telly a documentary about the Highwaymen, which was absolutely brilliant. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I think there was also a concert film which was really good as well, and it was lovely to see Waylon joking and laughing on stage with the other guys. Here we've got the Louvin Brothers, Ira and Charlie. This is another on the Stetson label. You can see the Stetson label there. This is originally from 1958, probably pressed sometime in the 80s on the Stetson label. They were a close part harmony singing duo and were very much an influence on the Everly Brothers. So if you like the Everly Brothers, you may well like the Louvins. The Louvins themselves were influenced by groups like the Blue Sky Boys from earlier. And it's interesting, isn't it, that it takes siblings, brothers and sisters, brothers and brothers, to be able to kind of understand the way each of them sings, to do the harmonies. So much like the Everleys, you know, Charlie and Ira would do that. Now, one of the things that happened was they, much like the Everleys, they split up due to falling out, mainly due to Ira's alcoholism. He was shot by his third wife 3 times in the chest, but he survived. Apparently she said, if he isn't dead, I'll shoot him again. That's country music, isn't it? Right there. He survived from that, but died in a car crash with his fourth wife. You thought you'd learn by your third. Okay, so great album. It's got things like Tennessee Waltz on it. They're probably more famous for their album Satan is Real. You may well have seen the album cover. It's got the Louvin Brothers in lovely white suits on a kind of a hellish landscape of fire and brimstone, and looming behind them is this massive, massive Satan cardboard cutout. It always turns up on one of those sorts of crazy album covers, things you see on the internet. But it's a good album itself. This doesn't have any of that sort of hellfire and brimstone. I have got an album of that which does. But a beautiful album, lovely. Finally, I'm going to let you get away with one last one here. This is the Hanson Family, Through the Trees. This is from '97 on their own Carrot Top record label. If you aren't familiar with the Hanson Family, they're a kind of a country gothic duo. Brett and Rennie Sparks, originally from Chicago, now in Albuquerque, I think. You might know them for the theme music to the first series of True Detective, Far From Any Road, which is on an album a couple after this. Now this, I think, this is their third album, Through the Trees, and I think, you know, if I was going to say to anyone which album to listen to, this would be the one. It's got some amazing songs. Weightless, again, the opening track is an absolute killer tune. Cathedrals is a good one. The cathedrals in Cologne looks like a spaceship, like the hands of God falling from the sky. Beautiful. The Giant of Illinois is a song that makes me cry, so I won't try to remember the lyrics to that. I've still got this in its shrink wrap. I don't like to keep things in their shrink wrap. I normally put them in a protective plastic cover. But this is one of those ones where it's got a sticker on the front. You can see it there, which is rather annoying, and it's actually on the shrink wrap. It's a quote by Andrew Bird, who's done an album of Hanson Family songs. It says, I think the Hanson Family really belong up there with John Prine, Townes Van Sant and Leonard Cohen. They're at that level. And who's to disagree with him? I'm not. Cracking stuff. Postscript to this, there was an interview with Ringo Starr. And Ringo Starr's always been a fan of country music. You probably know, because I mean he did. He persuaded the Beatles to record Buck Owens' "Act Naturally," which is on one of their albums. It's like one of the only cover albums after they did the kind of rock and roll stuff early. And he was asked in an American interview what was he listening to, what bands did he like at the moment, and it was probably around the time of this. And he said, I really like the Hanson Family. And the interviewer thought he meant the Hansons, you know, as in Mbop. Totally different thing. Not to say that Hanson Mbop isn't a good track. It is. But it ain't up there with the Hanson Family. Go and listen to it. Get onto Spotify now. In fact, don't even listen to the end of my video. Go now, go to Spotify, listen to Through the Trees. Are you gone? You're still there? Okay. Those who ignore my instructions. Okay. That's the end. That's the last one I'm going to show you. Thank you very much for bearing with me and watching. If you liked it, tell all your friends. If you didn't like it, don't say anything. Shh. Didn't even happen. Alright? So, if you want to, subscribe, join the 6 or so that already have. I think one of them's my girlfriend. But thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed it. Here's signing off. Until next time, this is another fat man, bearded. I can't even remember my name. Another fat bearded man talking about records. Bye bye.